Report, a daily political talk show, and a fantastic podcast that everyone should listen to. I listen to basically every day. All right, here is what has me so frustrated, angry, and upset about the vote. The shameful ass vote that the Republicans had today. Before we argue it, I know. Before we argue it, let me just say this. So here's the thing that has been lost in all this. There is already a cut to S.N.A.P. that is going to take effect this fall. It's going to be $36 a month, which you say, well, $36. $36 a month is a lot of money if you are poor enough to receive food stamps. And then this $40 billion cut, which is not going to happen and is not going to be made real, is then obscures the fact that the Democratic Senate passed a farm bill that cut food stamps by $4 billion. Okay? That's 1/10. But that's also a lot of money. We shouldn't even be cutting food stamps. We should be increasing food stamps. Let's increase them by $10 billion a year or $15 billion. I don't care. People need to eat, and there are a lot of poor people in this country. And what this connects to, and then I'll shut up in a moment, what this connects to is the exact same thing as happened with the sequester, which is the right flank does all sorts of crazy nonsense over to the right, and then they drag the center to the middle. So right now we're having this debate about Obamacare, defund Obamacare. Your boss, Grover Norquist, says it's crazy, it's batty, don't do it, all right? He's no rhino, right? He's no squish. He's saying, you're crazy, don't want it. What's going to happen is, when the whole thing's over, then the center is going to be keep the sequester funding. The sequester was the most controversial policy in all of domestic fiscal politics that we have seen in this country in several years. And then it's just going to be the baseline. Sam, am I wrong about this? Does it drive you crazy as it drives me crazy?
Yeah, I mean, it does. But it also speaks to some larger problem in our culture where this notion that we're going to be punishing poor people for being poor, essentially. And what's also stunning is that we hear constantly, and I think some of this is legitimate, that the economy, from the right, that Obama has tanked the economy, that the growth is sort of is pyrrhic, that it's not really happening. Well, there's some truth to that, but then you can't turn around and say, and now we're going to punish the people who are suffering under that we're crying about at that point.
Explain to me why this vote today was not morally monstrous and shameful.
Because smart people need to disabuse themselves of the idea that spending more money means spending money well, and that's exactly what they're trying to do with this vote today. Is trying to actually, because look, you're talking about how there's going to be a S.N.A.P. Spending cut coming down the pipe, how we've got sequester that we're already laboring under. If there's going to be less money, we need to spend it better, and it needs to actually go to people who need it.
So why isn't a person who has been unemployed for more than 3 months, who doesn't have a kid, who is living in poverty, right, meets the income requirement, has been unemployed for more than 3 months, which is the current requirement, in a very high unemployment year, why should that person not get $100 a month from the government?
What this bill does is it says maybe the dead person shouldn't get the $100 a month. The lottery winner shouldn't get the $100 a month. That person maybe should.
So wait a second. You need to throw off 4 million people to get rid of those two people you're talking about?
They're the dead people. Those are the people you're getting rid of.
Dead people are not actually cashing those checks. There's 1% fraud in the program.
But guess what? If you write the check, it still goes out the door.
Wait.
So we're still spending the money.
But for 1% fraud, you're going to do across the board 10% cut, throwing 10% of the people off the rolls.
Listen,
it doesn't make any sense.
Let me just say
There's just no logic.
Let me just say this also. The argument Eric Cantor was making today was not an argument about fraud. I saw some people making the fraud argument, and frankly, I don't think the fraud argument holds up because they've done audits of the program, and there's incredibly low levels of fraud.
1%.
But that wasn't even Eric Cantor. I think even gave up on this. His whole argument was we are just doing what Bill Clinton did, which is work requirements. People should be working. They shouldn't be sitting on the dole. But here's the thing, and this is what Sam. Unemployment in this country is 7.5%. There are 3 unemployed people for every job opening. It's not like people are sitting around, and the critics of the Obama economy say this all the time on the right. It's not like people are sitting around being like, man, it is awesome being unemployed in this economy.
And I would say that was also the biggest failing of welfare reform under Clinton, was because it did not project out what happens when there are no jobs.
Welfare reform under Clinton has been heralded as a success on the left and the right. And
not on this part of the left.
Incorrectly heralded,
Okay,
continue.
well, but perhaps then this is a starting point for conversation on welfare writ large. What the bill was intended to do today was expand the work requirements that are already in TAMP that had 50 governors, right and left, signed off on saying it was better for their states to have this in place.
Wait, no.
TANF, yeah.
Right.
This expanded it to
There are
SNAP
40
programs.
governors in the country right now who want to maintain these waivers because they have too many poor people.
Including Republican governors.
Who cannot eat. They cannot afford to eat.
But there are governors who don't want to have them in place, and they have the chance now that they don't have to abide by it. They want to decrease.
They don't have to apply for a waiver.
Yeah, the waiver's voluntary.
This is a completely opt-in situation.
Well, but now they don't have the option to opt in, but they have the option to expand their programs to the populations that need them because they're not spending money on federal mandates that require them to spend.
This is all federal money.
The federal government.
Correct, but they don't have. They are able to set up their own programs now. They're able to have better control over where
are they going to get the money for these programs?
They still get the federal money. They just get what they're doing is they're increasing the work requirements that are already in place in federal law that welfare reform advocates signed off on for the last 20 years, and they're increasing federal matches for people who do this in order to increase working population.
On work requirements, do you genuinely think, are you sitting here looking me in the face saying there are a lot of people, hundreds of thousands, millions, because 4 million will be kicked off, so let's say 2 million or 1 million of these folks, who are sitting around not getting a job because they are getting $1.40 per meal?
This is not an argument against the policy for you to impugn what you think the motives are, and of course I don't think that. I believe
that is the logic of the policy.
I'm not the logic of the policy. As I'm telling you,
the logic of the policy is that we are disincentivizing people.
It better.
The logic of the policy, quite frankly, is that we are disincentivizing people getting into the labor market by giving them $1.40 for every meal, and we need to put work requirements. Otherwise, the government, with its tasty, tasty candy, will lure people away from being productive members of society in an economy that has 7.5% unemployment. It is completely nonsensical.
I also would like to know how many lottery winners and dead people, if you're endorsing this policy, how many lottery winners and dead people do you think that we are funding with this $200, $130 a month?
Someone who believes in the safety net, which we all do, we just disagree at the extent to what size it should be. Don't you think those people shouldn't be on the? You're disregarding this idea that there is fraud in the.
I think we will all agree. The 1% of people in the latest GAO audit that were getting it fraudulently, let's figure out a way to not have them get it.
Right.
Mattie Duppler for Americans for Tax Reform. We ended on an agreement.
Sure.